You can walk yourself into hell walking your talk. So we've got to be saying the things that support us and that support others. We are in it together. Humanity is a team sport, and we need to be walking the right way.
Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Lesley Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Lesley as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions. Welcome to our latest episode. At Women We Should Know, we are committed to bringing to you, our audience, the voices, the wisdom, the audacity of incredible women who are doing amazing things in this world, particularly women who are focused on lifting up other women. Today, I am incredibly honored to have a longtime friend with us, Anne Gillis. This is a truly amazing woman. I'm going to have to read from this because I know who she is, but I need to see what you need to know. She is a spiritual life coach, author of 5 books, and she is also a breath worker. She is an interfaith minister, and she advocates for the absolute right to freedom of religion and affirms the truth of all religions, all faiths, and all spiritual traditions. Anne publishes a weekly newsletter called The Easy Secret. Now, you'll be able to look in our program notes and find out about that. And she is the founder of the EZosophy. I'm going to have her say this.
EZosophy.
EZosophy, thanks, Anne, movement. And their aim is to define and eliminate ego-driven suffering. Oh, that's good stuff. That's really good stuff. She also bills herself as Dr. Money, POP, Professor of Prosperity, and operates the group Abundance Affirmations to encourage people to develop their prosperity skills and to develop a right relationship with money. I love that she refers to it as prosperity skills. Now, I could go on and on about this woman. She is absolutely amazing. But instead, what I'm going to do is introduce all of you to my very dear friend, Anne Gillis. Hi, Anne.
Well, hi, Lesley. I'm so glad to be here. We've had a long relationship, and it's so great that we've kept up with each other through all these years.
It is amazing. And just before we started recording today, you were speaking about something that I found fascinating, and that is your philosophy around walking your talk. Would you like to share that with us and with the audience today?
A lot of people use that phrase. You got to walk your talk. And I'm saying that is not enough. You have to be saying the right things, because you can walk yourself into hell walking your talk. But some of the talk that I hear people talking that they fervently, passionately believe in, I don't want to go that way. I don't want to walk that path. I don't want to be that way. So we've got to be saying the things that support us and that support others. We are in it together. It's a team sport. Humanity is a team sport. We got to walk together, and we need to be walking the right way, the way of kindness, compassion, joy, and peace. Of course, you can do whatever you want. I mean, we're free to do whatever we want. But if we want results that really enliven us and that support us, then we're going to need to be careful what we're saying.
I love that. Humanity is a team sport. May I quote you on that?
Oh, yeah. And I can't remember. That either came from Timothy Leary or Ram Dass. I'm thinking that it was Timothy Leary, but it may have been Ram Dass. They mix in my mind since they were comrades.
They were deep soulmates on a different kind of level.
Yeah.
Certainly. So
let me just step back 1 second and ask you, what would you love the audience to know about you that is not in your bio?
I don't believe in growing as what we need to do, that we need to grow, but I am growing. I think if I have to believe in growing, that I have to effort a lot. And a lot of what I'm doing in EZosophy is learning how to, it's like realization isn't growing. I don't have to strive to do that. I don't have to make myself be a better person. So I believe that we can grow in a non-efforting way. That's part of what EZosophy is about. And I think that a lot of the way that we look at in business and that we look at in personal growth is an efforting. It's like you've got to, people are numbers, and you got to talk to this many people, or life isn't going to be like you want it to be. And there's so many different tools and principles that we're given. And I'm saying that it's not that I want to say, if it's not fun, don't do it, but it's like, we don't bring the pleasure into life that we could. And so I think I'm constantly coming into that understanding, because I have been such a massive doer that I want to relieve myself and give myself the freedom not to do that so much. And so, as I'm saying, I don't believe in growth, but I am growing. I don't believe in growth as a goal. I'm going to grow and then I'm going to be a better person. I think about a donkey. Can you imagine a donkey taking lessons to be a donkey? They don't have to. They're already a donkey, and we already are who we are. And that's one of the secrets to life, and that is that we don't have to be any better at being us than we are. We already are us, and that's the way we need to be. And if we have growth, like I'm saying, it can be an aha, or it can be entertainment, but it doesn't need to be to get us to be better. We're pristine, divine, precious beings that are complete. So am I.
That's right. I love that. And I have to tell you, that is exactly what I needed to hear today. I was really doing the whole efforting dance when I woke up this morning. All morning while I was getting ready for my day, I was efforting. And in the back of my mind, I kept saying, just chill. So thank you for that. I think that's an important thing that all of us need to remember on a regular basis, is that we are perfect, just like we are. Just like we are. Thank you for that. I really want to take a little bit of a turn and invite you to share with us, as you came to understand and develop this philosophy of EZosophy and came to the wisdoms that you share, what in the beginning frightened you about the journey that you're going to take to get to, at that time, you didn't know where?
Well, I've got to say that one of my first realizations is I wasn't afraid about the journey. What I had to deal with really was unbridled fear. My life was run by fear. And fear, once it's a fear-driven life stream, then everything is then seen in fear. It's projected onto everything. So I really wasn't selective about whether it was a spiritual journey. I've had the privilege of being afraid about almost everything. And once I realized that, I can remember one day exactly where I was. I was in my bedroom and I was cowering in fear, and I could feel it in my body. And I just said, I am not going to live in fear all of my life. And I actually turned around and I faced fear and I said, come on, just totally be me. just be in me. And as I faced it, it began to dissipate some. And so it wasn't so much, like I'm saying, looking at where I had to go that was afraid, that there was fear for me, but it was just facing fear itself. And now I still have plenty of fear, but it doesn't define me the way it did. And so when I look at the event that I'm afraid of, I like to pull back, erase the event, and then just look at the fear and then just deal with that. And I don't deal with it in terms of how do you feel the fear. I just deal with it in terms of experiencing it as a body sensation and a chemical, and taking a look at it and being curious about the sensation of fear until it dissipates.
That is brilliant. And the thing that really stands out to me that I don't think is discussed enough is the fact that you said you still have fear. We all still have fear. We're never, ever going to get rid of it completely. We actually have a part of our brain that is programmed to fight, flight, or freeze. And I really am fascinated by the process that you have developed for yourself to just strip away the incident, get rid of the story, if you will, and just be in the sensation of that fear until it can dissipate. I know I will benefit from that. I'm sure a lot of our audience will benefit from that. Thanks for that story.
Yeah, and Lesley, I want to add something to it. I think I always say that I'm still afraid, and still afraid supposes that there's going to be a time in the future when I'm not afraid. So I really just say, I should say, I am afraid. I have instances whether I'm afraid and when I'm not afraid. Now, we do understand that there are two different kinds of fear. One is psychological fear and emotional fear, and then the other one is really a biological fear.
Right.
And so I need to make a distinction. Of course, you know, if I'm afraid because a bear's coming toward me, that's a really good biological fear that I need to pay attention to. And so that one, I'm not going to sit around and say, oh, let me face the fear and so forth, you know, this highfalutin stuff. I'm gone. So I do want to make the distinction between those kinds of fears. You know, we are very, I'm going to use the word privilege again, we're very privileged that we get to even make those kinds of distinction, that we live in a safe enough world where we can luxuriate in the different kinds of fear that we have and figure it out and get rid of them. And I'm really happy that I have that opportunity, because some people don't even have that experience. They just have to live in the biological fear. They're in war-torn areas. They've lost their job and they're going to be evicted. Those kinds of things are not what I address in EZosophy. Mine are about what I call just the made up stuff, the psychological fears. And sometimes they're triggers, but they're triggers from the past, and they're not really real anymore.
Right. Pasting, as I call it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Love it.
I can get into some pasting, my friend, and then I have to remember to set it down. Speaking of fear, and on the topic of fear, you and I have both worked with women for a very, very long time, and worked in the area of women's upliftment, women's empowerment, gender equality, social advocacy. One of the things I see often with women is the fact that they don't want to be empowered because they're afraid. They're afraid of themselves, they're afraid of a lot of things. I would be fascinated to hear, and I believe our audience would as well, how you help women rise out of that space so that they can be their glorious selves.
Well, you know, I don't really help people rise out of anything. You know, I'm pretty much that until we're okay with our fear, we can't really move out of it. And so I don't try to get anybody to rise out of it. I just try to get people to face their fear, to be with their fear and not see it as an enemy, because it's going to be with us, and there'll be times that it rises and times that it falls, and not to be so event driven because of those fears. I know you've heard this saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. And I do believe that. I believe the most important to me talk that I ever gave was in Vancouver. And I say important to me because there was a large audience of about 900 people, and I was on the stage, and there were a lot of other big time speakers there. You would not even believe how afraid I was.
Really?
And I was so afraid, and it had been really amazing how it came about, but I had a person that was with me, and I just said, will you lay on the bed with me and just hold me until we go out? And she did. And then before I went out, I was going by different people, and I had just said, please help me with this fear. Don't let me that it override me. Let me be able to give a good talk. And it was so wild. But as I was walking up to the stage, I had to go through a little area. Different people happened to stop me and they said, I can't wait to hear you. I know that you'll be good. I am with you. You're safe and you're okay. I mean, out of the blue, these people were saying that. And so even though we have fears, when we have a radical trust, I think, in the good, the overarching good in our lives, then we can move even with fear through fear, but not avoid it, not try to, if you try to put something down, like a ball in the water, it's going to pop up. So right. I may not be giving you the answers that you're looking for, but it may be the questions that you're asking are not quite right for my skill set. Because I don't rise above anything. I don't think. And then of course, tomorrow you might talk to me and I may be using the language of rise above. I'm not stuck in any paradigm. I come straight from where I am right now in the present moment. It may look like it contradicts something I said yesterday, but I will tell you that paradigms and situations shift and I go with those.
I think that's great. And I think your answers are wonderful. I asked the question because I want to hear something different. I know you're going to take me to a new place I hadn't possibly considered before. So that's wonderful. I really heard the term radical trust. For our audience today, for those who it jumped out for, and now it's certainly jumped out as I've restated it, in addition to what you've already shared, what is something our audience can take with them and carry with them to help them come to that place of radical self-trust?
Oh, goodness. What a large thing. I think that the only time that can occur is in the present moment. Mm-hmm. And we're either trusting right now or we're not trusting. We can't set about and saying, I'm going to read 65 books, and when I get through with that, and then when I get a such and such coach, I'm going to radically trust. We're either radically trusting this moment or we're not. Mm-hmm. When we look into the future and we get afraid, that is great entertainment for the ego, but it is not where we'll find radical trust. It's what we tend to do. I'm saying that the only thing that I can recommend is staying in the moment and allowing it to be what it is. And if we freak out, even allow that to be okay. I'm always about allowing everything to be okay the way it is. A radical acceptance, if you would call it a radical acceptance. It doesn't mean that we don't plan. It doesn't mean that we don't take action. It doesn't mean any of those things. It means that within that action that we're taking, we're fully present and radically trusting that moment to be okay. And one thing that does happen when we're radically present is the over voice begins to disappear. That's saying, well, you need to do this, what's going to happen here, or even the nonverbal thoughts that come up. We have thoughts that are nonverbal and they create emotions. And when those things come up, then we're fighting with those as well. And as we're radically present, that begins to disappear. When that begins to disappear, there is so much freedom of our energy. We are freed up. And freedom is, I think that we're after freedom. We may think that we're after love, but I think we're after freedom, because love is just always there. But freedom is something that we don't experience. Freedom to be in that moment, freedom not to worry, freedom to be who we are. Freedom, I think, is what we should market, not love. And I'm saying that in a kind of a funny way, because I do know that love is the glue that holds everything together. But without freedom, we're in prison. Without freedom, right. We're in prison.
I'd like to reflect that same philosophy that you just presented onto money. I encounter so many women who they can't do this, can't do that, can't do the other because of money. And when I speak with them, what I hear is what they're really lacking is freedom. I know you work a great deal with helping people to develop right relationship with money. And how does that connect and support or intersect with freedom?
We think that freedom, that money gives us freedom, and that is true in terms of our physical body, and it will buy us a babysitter if we need to go out. What money can't buy is the psychological freedom that I'm talking about. Money can get us a certain kind of freedom, but I think what we want really when it comes to do with freedom and money, I think we want freedom from worry about money. Most people do have money, but worrying about money is an addiction. It is a chemical fix. I mean, we have financial anorexia where we starve ourselves for money, or we will never want to buy anything, or we penny pinch, or we have financial binging where we overspend and we say that I'm going to shop until I drop, or, shopping as a hobby, all those cute little things about shopping. I think that we need to be free of our fear for money, or as I think it was Fred Lehrman, I remember him talking about being money proof. When we're money proof, that means that when the money goes out, we're not freaking out. And when the money comes in, we're not just indulging or luxuriating in that. It's that we're money neutral. And so to me, that's freedom, being money neutral. I had an experience in the 2008 crash where I lost about $200,000, which was a tremendous amount of my money to live on my retirement money.
Sure.
And navigating that was very interesting for me. I had read about people going through that kind of experience then. And not only did I lose that money, I also lost my investments that were giving me a pretty large income every month. And I loved that experience because it really made my relationship with money clearer. When we have plenty of money, it's difficult to see what our relationship really is because we don't think about it. And when we have not much money at all, then often we're so triggered with fear and trying to figure out how to pay our bills. Money proof is where I want to go with that, because sometimes the extremes don't give us a chance to look at where we really are with money. And where we really want to be with money is that it's like nothing.
Right.
Money is nothing. And in terms of, I don't like the whole thing. For example, somebody will say, would you like to go to this workshop? And I think, well, I'm not going to really afford that because I don't want to stretch myself out financially. And they say, oh, well, you know how it is. If you really set your mind to it and you put your goal to it, you can have it, you can get it. That is okay if people want to believe that and live by that system. But I pretty much know my relationship with money. And I know what I want to afford and when I want to afford it. My daughter said, for example, when we were moving here, and I was saying, well, I'm not sure what we can afford and what we want to do. And she says, well, Mom, I've seen you really go out there and whatever you want, you can create. And I said, I'm a little different about that. I'm just going to let go and say that the highest good is being done for me. I'm not going to say that I'm going to pay X for a house. Let's just see what's going to happen. Now, I did put out a list of preferences, and that is what do I want in a house. And I did end up getting that. And I did end up paying twice as much money for this house as I did the last house, and it's worth half as much. But if I was going by my old relationship with money, I would never have paid twice as much for a house that was half as big, because I would have wanted to get my value and I would have been upset and I would have been worried and fretting about it and everything. But it's like, no, it's just okay. That's what's up. That's what we're doing. And so I'm about a neutral relationship with money.
I think that's brilliant. And to me, as I listen to you, that sounds like freedom. As I'm hearing you, I'm feeling that sense of freedom that can come from that neutral sense.
I want to say one more thing about money.
Sure.
My best friend, and she always likes to be anonymous, but she's pretty well off, pretty wealthy. And one of the things that she says always is when people say, if you have to look at the price tag or you have to look at the price on the menu, you can't afford it. And she said, that is crazy. She said, I look at the price tag on everything. And, if she wants to spend a lot of money, she will. She drives a luxury car. But she says, one of the reasons I have money is because I'm smart with my money. I'm not going to pay a whole lot for something that I really don't value that much just because I have the money. And we were on a trip one time and we went to this restaurant. And it was pretty expensive. I was starving. I didn't care how much I paid for it. But she looked, I said, aren't you going to eat something? And she said, no. She said, this fancy smancy food, it costs 4 times more than it should. I'm not going to eat it. And I love that. Not this deal where everybody is saying, oh, just go for it. Let it be that way. I mean, we have to develop our own relationship with money and know what we're comfortable with, not be ashamed of it, and go with that.
That's right. And I really appreciate the way you don't say, I can or can't afford it. You say, I'm going to see if I choose to afford that. And that gives the power back to us, and it gives the responsibility back to us. And that's where the freedom is, right?
Well, yes. And a lot of times I will use the thing, I can't afford it. But you know what? It's because it's an excuse.
That's right.
It's a cover-up excuse that I can use because people will buy that.
Right.
People will buy that. And then there also, in terms of money, one of the things I've had to overcome, because that's been a big thing in my life, the whole relationship with money, and that is that if I don't have money, really giving up, when my income went way up, I had to give up the idea that when people took care of me or they gave me money, that they were giving me love, that they were loving me. And if I had plenty of money, would people still love me? Would they still be around me? Would they still want me because they didn't have to take care of me? That sounds strange, but I promise you, it's in the mix. We think that money is love.
Yeah. Oh, it does not sound strange to me at all. I have witnessed this confusion between money and love, and love and many things in women all over the place. I'm sure that men also express it. It's just that I've predominantly worked with women, and I've seen this a lot. I don't find it strange at all. I'm glad you brought that forward. Now,
well, I just want to say that about women and money, women have really been programmed not to handle money. Now, the newer women are coming out of that, but I was raised in the 50s. I was born in the 40s, probably older than most people that'll be listening to this. And what I learned was that men handled the money and women really handled, well, not just the home, but my currency was being beautiful, attractive, and sexy. And my husband's currency was being powerful and having the money. And that was the paradigm I existed in. And whether the young women have that or not, we are still breaking through the bonds of those things, whether it's front and center now or not. It is still there. It is still an operating system of our culture. I went to a human rights conference one time, and we had a conference about women and money. And we had a breakout session. And one of the women was talking about getting, she had a PhD, she had a pretty good income, but she meets somebody and she said, I just turn into somebody different because I want them to take care of me. I want them to handle the money and all of that. And I just have to fight that. And so, but now one of mine was the opposite. I was single for about 20 years and then I got married. And then when we were married, I handled every penny. I knew everything that was going on. I had to control the money. I just had so much going on about money. And then I gave it to my husband. I let him start doing it. I went, especially when he retired, it's like, I am working. I am doing like 50 million things. You're not doing anything. You're going to have to handle the money. And that has been freeing for me, not to have my finger, right down on it all the time. I used to worry about the utility bill. I used to worry about groceries. I used to worry about how much stuff costs. I have no idea. Except the other day, every once in a while I said, honey, when you go to the grocery store, if I ask you to buy something, please look at the price. I mean, he bought some apricots home at $17. I just happened to look at the bill. Not that I look at it very often. And I said, $17 is too much to pay for apricots. And then I asked for some nutmeg and it came on, it was $10. And I said, you can get some for $2. I don't even use it that frequently, that often. So every once in a while I'll pay attention. But basically, I don't know.
Right. Well, and you have the comfort of being able to turn it over, knowing that at any moment you could move back into the driver's seat. You would never find yourself, as many women do, widowed or divorced late in life, neither which I wish upon you, but then unable to take care of themselves. There's a sense, I suspect, of being comfortable with letting go because you know how. So you don't have to in this moment. Yeah. Yes. Now, again, talking about freedom and money and events, one of the things I find fascinating, and you were speaking about it the other day, is when you slowed down, you weren't traveling as much as you weren't all over the world helping people to realize that they didn't need to be helped, because all of a sudden you needed to stay home and take care of your air conditioner in your house, and these things that you, given a choice for so many years, take care of the house, go on a trip. You were on the airplane.
That's right.
Yes. Could you talk to us a little bit about the adventure of that and some of the most significant things you learned about yourself and about the world while you were going through this period?
You mean the transition period, or before the transition, or after?
The travel, the daring going out, the air conditioner will take care of itself, I'm getting on the plane, period.
Oh, well, I think when I was younger, I had a lot more bravado. And I had a much higher need for adventure and to fix myself. And that passion was perfect because I had the energy and so forth to travel. I did some of the craziest things. For example, through a series of events, I was invited to go to a conference in the Philippines. And I was able to secure some money to go to the Philippines and pay for my travel and pay for the room there and so forth. But if I paid that, I couldn't pay my bills at home. And so what I did was I just stayed with people I didn't know. I talked to conference people and I said, can I stay with you tonight? Can I stay with you tonight? And I ended up staying with this woman who had fled Malaysia or some country. She had been in royalty. I was with a star from, where was he from? One of the islands, and he was like a big name guy, and I stayed with him one night. And it took all of that in order for me to be able to work it out financially. And it was like, I will do whatever it takes to go. And this wasn't during my major travel time, but when I was asked to go to that speech, this person called up and he said, I've read your book and I would like to have you come and speak, but it's Thanksgiving and it's 2 weeks away and I don't know if you can travel. I don't know what you can do to get here, because he knew that it might be hard to get a flight. It would cost a whole lot. And I just said, if I have to walk, I'll be there. If I have to walk. And so I hung up. I called somebody who had been at a place where I had spoken, and she had told me, she said, if there's anything ever I can do for you, call. And I called her and I just said, well, I said, I just had this opportunity and I'm not sure what I can do about it. And she said, I'll take care of it. She had like millions. She had so many miles because she had traveled of frequent flyers that she booked my flight and came with me and managed me the whole time. And I was able to do that speaking engagement, but I did not know how that would happen, but it all worked out. And I just said that. I also, and I don't want to make this political, but this will be political. Some people may not like it, but I always had admired Al Gore because I was a big environmentalist and very concerned with the planet since I was young. And when he and Clinton ran for president, I just went, I'm going to that. I'm going to that. I will go. And so I had someone that said, I've got a room, you can have a room. I said, I'm going. And they said, okay, you can have this room. So I had the room and I got on the train where I was and I went up to the inauguration and I'm standing at the gates and people, I learned then that you had to have a ticket to get in. And I go, oh, crap, you got to have a ticket. I have done all this the rest of my life. I've traveled on trains that I don't even know how to travel on because I'm from the South. We're not used to having these mass transit. And here I am without a ticket. What am I going to do? And I just went, I have come this far. I will be in that inauguration. And I heard somebody say, I have a free ticket. Does anybody need one? And somebody said, I need it. And then I thought, well, damn, that's what I'll do. And I said, does anybody else have anybody else have a ticket? And somebody said, yeah. And they gave me a ticket, and it was like really close. It was near Maya Angelou, who that year read her poem. And I was able to get in. And so my life was lived on just the faith in the moment that somehow it would work out. And it always did.
And I believe that every one of us has that power. We just don't exercise it. I'd say you have a really good, strong believing in the moment and trusting the moment muscle.
I do. And now I don't do as outrageous of things as I did then. And that's okay too. I am older. I'm in my 70s. I just don't do as much as I did, and that's okay. I think it's good to have the times where we have our shooting star moments, and then also have our resting in the hammock and really looking at the flowers and the birds and the bees and enjoying those moments as well. We don't need to be out on a limb all the time, just part-time.
Right. Well, to everything there is a season. Yes.
Yeah, we will wear ourselves out if we live like that all the time. And I think that the paradigm that people have is that we always need to be doing that. We don't. We just need to be doing that part-time. We need to take a risk part-time.
We do need to take risks, though.
Part-time.
Yeah. Part-time. Yeah. Part-time.
Not in every, because we need the moments to refuel, to restore, and to renew. And those are just as important as the other, but they're equally as important.
Yes, yes. But I am a big believer in we must take some risk.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We absolutely must walk out to the very edge of that branch every once in a while.
And that's what they say, that's where the fruit is on the.
That's right.
That's where the fruit is.
That's right. I would love, we're just moving along and having so much fun, but I would really love to focus some attention on gender equality, social advocacy, what you've learned from your endeavors in these realms about what we can still do to move forward.
Well, I just want to say I'm pretty pissed off about it. That's basically what I've learned. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous. I hear you. And we don't even know it's there. We don't even know it's there. We've been acclimated like the frog in water to accept the way things are, and we don't even know it's there. And then we've got all these principles of acceptance, and there are different kinds of acceptance. There's one thing that brings us peace, and that is accepting that we can't change the way things are now. But that doesn't mean that we don't change things at all. I mean, acceptance is a psychological tool. It's not to advocate that we always remain silent. And there is a thing that says pick your battles, and I do that. As I told you, I think the other day, that I go to a Course in Miracles group, and I basically go to the Course in Miracles groups and most groups, not to grow, but because I love to be around the people and I love the ideas. But I always orient people and say, I'm not reading this using male terminology. And everybody always says, well, it just seems like female terminology to me. I mean, it seems like, it includes everybody. That's, son and God and father, and all of that includes everybody. And I said, well, if we can use one word to include everybody, let's just use she and her instead of he. And, that blows everybody's minds. Mm-hmm. But I do think that it's imperative that we begin to use gender neutral language. And I get so excited when I read a book and I find that within the book. I'm so proud and happy that people are acknowledging that. And was your question, what can we do?
Yeah, what is it that we can do, and what do you see as the most important thing that needs to be done at this point?
Well, I don't have an overarching thing that is going to handle this.
You mean to tell me, and you don't have the answer to everything? You're not just going to fix the world for us right this minute?
Oh, it could well be. But I do want to think that a lot of this is when we look at the role that women play and the role that men play, that a lot of it is like this. Anne Wilson-Schaef has a wonderful book, When Society Becomes an Addict. And she talks about it in terms of hierarchical. I think, let's say, Rian Eisler does too. And we have these hierarchies, and we have this patriarchal hierarchy, and then women are below that. And it's been comfortable for our society. It may not be fair, it may not be right, but it's been comfortable. And you'll see a lot of women argue against their best interest. I had a woman that fight with me, and she said, well, women aren't equal. They're not as strong. They're not as this. They're not as that. And I said, I'm not talking about whether your body has enough strength when you say we're equal. Is it equal? We need to be paid the same amount. That's what I'm talking about with equal. We need to be given the same amount of time to speak on the floor. If you go into a group of people and you look at people who are given the time to talk, more men will speak up, more men will be given time. And if women are told, if you're in a lecture or something and there's question and answer time, and they say we're going to do 5 minutes and then it's over, women will generally stand back, but men will keep going. Can you just answer one more question? You don't see women doing that. And so I'm just saying that we have developed a way of being that we don't even notice. And even I heard a woman talking about a feminine perspective, the feminist perspective, and even within that talk, she did something that was it was kind of a put down for her. She didn't realize it. And then she goes, oh my gosh, even like the best of us, we're so acclimated, we don't know that it's going on. What do I see that needs to be done? First, I think that we have self-compassion. We need to speak out. I think we need to use gender-neutral language. If you're writing a book, please, don't get upset about him or her. Just put it in there. Just go on and do it. Say, oh, this is so confusing. It's so much easier if we do so and so. Let's not fall for that anymore. And all of you, probably half of the people listening to this, are going to write a book. You've all been thinking, when am I going to write my book? In your mind is, when you haven't written your book yet, when are you going to write your book? Well, you're going to write that book. And when you do, use gender inclusive language. That is one of the biggest things that I see that we can do, and that we can do that individually. I don't say post man, I say post person. I mean, congressperson. I use all those kinds of phrases when I'm talking, and that's something that we can all do. In terms of marching and activism, you want to do that? Do that. There's a part for everybody to do. Find your part. Do that part. What I want to do, what I need to do is not what you need to do. So you find your part and you do it.
Right. I really appreciate your perspective on the language, because language dictates a society to a very great degree, for the better, for the worse, for the stepping up and noticing, or for the avoidance. Language does tell us where to go and who to be and how to act. So that's something that is easy, that we can all do. It's not something that's going to take time out of our day, or it's not something we can say, oh, I'm too busy for that. It's something that we could start actually incorporating on a broader basis. So thank you.
And we make changes, and we make changes in the way that we do things. It upsets the apple cart, because there's a homeostasis in everything in our relationship with people. And so when we do things that are different, it puts people off, but it's a little scary for ourselves. But yet we are going to have to live with fear, because all change is accompanied by fear.
Yes.
We don't want it to run us, but it's going to be there. So that's why, getting back to, when we're afraid, I can't tell people how not to be afraid. I can tell us to walk through with the fear and through the fear, but not to ever not have it. It's going to be there. And so it will be there if we are going to change the culture of women. It will be there. And it is okay to be angry. I know that I was listening to, I'll give you an example of this subtle put down, and that is that, you know, that Marianne Williamson ran for president.
Right.
And I had a friend who is very enlightened, so to speak. He travels, he's a teacher, he's amazing, he goes all over the world. And he says, well, I just don't know about Marianne Williamson. She's angry. And I said, it's very interesting because she's just forceful and powerful, and she speaks with authority. And he says, well, I don't know, I just see her as being angry. So a few months later, he came back and he said, you were right. I was just prejudiced because she was a woman, and because she was speaking in that way, I labeled that as being angry and aggressive. And he is like on the top tier of humanitarian, wonderful, incredible beings. And so the thing that women have to deal with is very similar to the things that Blacks have to live with. Now, I cannot pretend to know what that is like, but I'm just saying that there's a tremendous amount of similarities in those two things.
And very possibly
prejudice against women is not noticed.
Yes.
Systematic prejudice against Black is not noticed to many people.
It is not. It is not. And possibly one of the reasons he is one of these great humanitarians is because he's an individual who can turn around and come back in a few months and say, I was wrong. And so he may not be pursuing growth, but he's definitely growing. Yes, the systematic bias in our society, whether it's women, whether it's Blacks, whether it's transgender, that is something that is not going to change overnight. It hasn't changed overnight. But I, for one, hope to see more progress in the immediate future than what we have seen.
I want to recommend a movie. Have you seen I Am Woman, the Helen Reddy story?
I have.
Yeah, and I would really recommend that. I think it addresses it really well.
Wonderful. Well, on that note, I will recommend a book to you. You've probably already read it.
I haven't. White Fragility. I haven't read it, no.
You knew what I was going to recommend. Well, that's wonderful. In closing, we could sit here all day, or I could. I would like to ask you what your last great insight was. Not the one that you've told on stage or the stories or what have you. Maybe it came last Tuesday in the shower, but the last great insight that you had.
Well, the last great insight is happening in every moment. And the last great insight I had is pretty radical. And it goes against everything that I believe, and that's okay. And that is that we are all consciousness, and there is no separation between us and that consciousness, but that actually means that we have no free choice, that we are not the doer, that there is a life stream, intentional consciousness that is flowing through us that is doing. And that gives me a tremendous amount of freedom. Now, it sounds weird. I have no choice, and because I have no choice, that means that I have complete choice. I have no choice because there's something that is moving through me that wants to experience life. It's the Leela. Consciousness wants to experience it through me. And so everything that I say, think, and do is actually consciousness that is saying and thinking and doing it. And this story that I have about me, that I'm doing it, that's why I'm saying I don't really need to grow, but that I'm doing it and everything, it's just a made up story. It's okay to have that story, it's fine. But this morning I was dancing around in my kitchen and I was seeing myself as consciousness, and I was saying, okay, I'm consciousness is doing everything. And I started kind of playing like a marionette. And I said, it's just so funny to be that. And I went in and I was talking to my husband about buying a car because we need to buy a new car. And he was getting defensive about it. And I looked at him as consciousness. And I saw this expression. He was being contracted and he was doing his stuff. But as I experienced him as this consciousness moving in limiting directions by choice, consciousness is doing all of this contracting and expanding by choice, I saw it as very interesting, and that was freeing. I didn't see him as somebody opposing me or taking a different side. I just saw him as very interesting that he could contract and expand like this. And this is an experience that I forget and remember all the time. I remember that I'm unlimited consciousness, and that this is this flow of this one through me, this oneness through me, and then I forget it. And every time I remember, and every time I experience myself as that oneness, it is amazing. And so the last time I had that was today, and I will contract and I won't be in that particular space. But my experiences that come, that enliven me, that transcend me, that open my eyes, that unlimit me, come and go. And they probably will just continue to come and go. And I cannot make them stay like this. They're going to come and go.
Well, you have just set us up for an entire follow-up podcast where we can just wax on down that particular road. So thanks.
Okay.
And it has been such a pleasure and such a delight and an honor to have you on. I am sure our audience members have picked up lots of wonderful nuggets that they will get to roll around in their consciousness for the rest of the day or the week. So thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
And thank all of you for tuning in to Women We Should Know today. I hope that you did find something that inspired you, that will project you into a new sphere of thought or a new spirit of adventure. And in closing, I'd just like to remind you, you are smarter and wiser than you know, and nothing is beyond you.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you received inspiration for expanding your own social innovation and influence. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at lesliemichaels.com/podcast. For more tips, insights, and support in creating a fully audacious, professional, and personal lifestyle you love, visit our Women We Should Know community on Facebook.